I would say I don't know that many different, I don't know how many systems you would say there are in the world regarding like there's work, school, I don't know exactly how many systems there are, but the best thing I can really say is really school. Like I cannot forget all these conversations I've had recently about how going into high school, which is basically not the make or break, but the make or break of your direction for the next lifetime, really, because high school is such a crazy time, not because it's high school, but it's because it's during the the time you're going through puberty, which means that's where you're really okay. So yeah, that's the time where you're really figuring out your body, what you like, what you don't like, what you're into, what you're not into, all these things. And if you go into high school with the mindset that you're gonna fail, it's hard for you to kind of get yourself out of that. So I would have all these conversations with people saying, "Oh, going into high school, many black people are shoved into for at least Canada or Ontario. There's locally developed, applied, academic, and AP. You could kind of tell the range of how smart people are in academics based on that level. People will go into high school somewhat forced to go into the locally developed and applied based on their elementary grades and whatnot. And to an extent, that is understandable because that's what high schools receive and that's what they suggest. But I just feel like the system, and based on the conversations I've had recently, the system is basically trying to bring them down in a way and force them into this locally developed and applied, treat them like that indirectly as they're bad kids who just don't take school seriously, and try not to provide actual support for them. Now again, I'm not that educated in everything, and I know there's a lot more rules and laws and all these stuff that I'm actually putting forth because we only have so much time. But if you're gonna put people in a quote unquote lower level of a certain business or school or system, isn't the goal to kind of bring them higher? Isn't the goal to see them in every aspect of in and out of classes and provide them with positivity and support instead of just categorizing themselves as bad kids, people who don't have any goals or visions or anything, because maybe they want help and support, people who are in those classes, but they don't know how to get that. They don't, like some people be saying who don't want to get into relationships, they can't give love if they don't know how to receive love from themselves. So people are in these school systems not knowing how to actually get out of it because no one is actually giving them that kind of love and support. So I feel like there's a lot of problems in that system regarding the schooling of locally developed and applied, and keeping a lot of people of color in that level and not providing a lot of support to lift them up. And that's kind of like the 1-2 thought I had about that.
I totally see what you mean, but again, assuming that humans in general are good people, under that assumption, under those grounds, I feel like it's mostly an economic issue, because that's what slavery originally was. If slavery was not profitable, then it would have not occurred. Yes, there's all these other factors that went into it. Yes, I feel like a lot of people felt empowered based on the stories of what we know, because we don't actually know a lot about that time period. Based on the stories that we know about what actually happened to slaves at that time, I feel like it was a power thing, it was a power dynamic. But it was, at the end of the day, on a larger scale, state to state, it was a financial thing. That's kind of why the North fought the South. It's not because the North was nicer than the South. Talk about America, of course. It's not because the North was nicer than the South. It's because the North wasn't making a lot of money because they were more urban. They didn't have a lot of space to plant fields and grow stuff, so they couldn't utilize slave labor properly, while the South could utilize slave labor at a much more efficient level, right? The South is more open, just giant fields filled with hundreds of slaves, make a lot of money, right? So that's what it was at the end of the day. It was just an economic issue. And that's kind of where it wasn't really about morals. And then to compare that, as much as I hate doing it, to compare that to school now. From what I've seen, there's a lot of things that I know. From what I've seen, teachers in high school, or the counseling, or the board in the high school does not receive like a picture detailing the actual race and ethnicity of the person that they're taking onto their school. What they do see are their grades. They see their attendance, they see their grades, they see what teachers say about them. In the other hand, in elementary school, where you start off, actually you start off in the household, your parents to teach you the first couple of things or whatever. In elementary school, where you start off, that's where the issue starts. Because then you get into people who are not interested in school, with certain stuff they have going on at home, which all lead back to what their ancestors and great ancestors went through, and the struggle that they're still trying to dig themselves out of. So they're struggling in school. And then teachers perceive them struggling in school as not an emotional or mental issue. They perceive it as a lack of effort issue. And that's what locally developed, applied, and academic is. Teachers perceive it not necessarily as an intelligence issue. They perceive it as a lack of effort. Applied puts in more effort than locally developed. Academic puts in more effort than applied. And AP puts in more effort than academic. That's how they would perceive the issue. And that all stems from someone's emotional and mental state in elementary school, which isn't taken care of because it's not addressed correctly. Because a lot of the teachers, to be fair, they don't get it. Because a lot of the teachers, I don't know about your elementary school, but my elementary school weren't of the same race. They're all Italians, which was awesome.
Yeah, same.
They were
I love them. I love every
Yeah,
single
I love them. Yeah, I love my elementary
them.
school teachers because I had a wonderful experience with all of them, with a lot of them. But I will not lie. I can't lie and say that I did not connect more with the black teachers because they can understand me on a deeper level. I cannot lie. You didn't have any black teachers?
I'm trying to remember.
That's crazy.
Continue.
I got to think about it. But I had one black teacher, and she was very hard. She was purposely very strict on the black boys in her school, in her class, because she knew. And I perceived her being very strict as picking on us, obviously, as a group. But I did not understand at the time that she was harsh on us because the world would be harsh on us later on. So that kind of mentality and that kind of understanding, this guy's freaking out. That kind of mentality and that kind of understanding kind of does help and prepare you for it later on in life, for high school and everything like that. Because it's not even that they wouldn't want to show that to you, or show that to you, let's say an Italian teacher wouldn't want to show that to you. They just might not have the perspective that a black teacher might have, to have the foresight to present that as an option to you, to present that obstacle in your way so you can grow stronger and build past it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like,
Yeah.
it's that relatability factor that helps them, push forth through obstacles. Oh my gosh, talking so hard sometimes.
Yeah,
It helps them. It gives them relatability. Like you said, like there are a lot of amazing teachers,
Yes.
principals, many people working for the school board. Many people.
Shout out to Rory.
But there's a lot of bad people working within that system that does not bring people down. Just because I'm in an academic level and there's someone in the locally developed level, it does not necessarily mean I put in more work than them. It's just that I am in a position that allows me to make time and actual energy for my schoolwork.
That is
but
true.
For people in the but for locally developed and applied people, they have a lot of issues and problems and stuff going on in their own life that prevents them from putting in actual work for school.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it could be just hanging around with the wrong group of kids, or maybe because I've seen so many quote unquote bad kids who hang out with the wrong group of people. But when I'm working with a group project with them, because I know them, like I'm friends with them, and we work on a group project, and they have those one or two moments of actual intelligence that teachers don't think they have, but I know they have when they actually do this, do that. Bro, like, again, it has nothing to do with lack of effort. It's just problems that are going on in their life that they don't know how to handle, and they need that teacher, principal, school system support because they are there for over 8 hours a day especially if they do extracurricular activities, they need that support so they can give them that extra boost of reason to work hard again. Why do you think so many of them do sports? It's not just because they like it, but it gives them that fuel, that adrenaline, that energy to get up every day to go to school, to work hard, because they know they have something to look forward to at the end of the day. If teachers and principals and school systems orchestrate their curriculum, whether it's in activities or teaching style or speaking presentation or whatever, because not all courses and curriculums are going to be fun for everybody, because again, everyone, if they're trying to be an actor, you know, let's say chemistry and everything may not appeal to you right away, but if a teacher presents it in a certain way, then it can kind of at least get them through the course and get them energized. So if there's a certain system that helps them get them energized and excited to go to school again, it will allow them to, I guess, quote unquote, put more effort and allow them to bring them more happiness for their lives. So not only will they be able to deal with all the demons that are going on in their life, but also bring a more positive attitude to a school environment. But again, that's just a 1-2 thought. I'm only going into my second year of university. I barely know anything. So,
I know negative.
Like Tevin said, if you want to page me after the podcast.
Yep.
But watch the whole thing
Page
first.
us now. Anyway, so we want to say what we want to say. So,
I don't know nothing. It's my 1-2 thought. I'm just a human trying to make this world a better place. Is that so bad? That's all I want to do. But hey, if that's a bad thing, then lock me up.
You're extra for that. You're extra for that entire 5 seconds, everything you just said. There is also, again, an economic issue, English, because schools do get funding if they have a certain amount of kids at a certain level. And our high school is a priority school, which means that it gets a certain amount of grants from the government, from the school board, for being a priority school, for being in a bad neighborhood. So there is also, and maybe, you know, we want to keep a certain amount of kids in the locally developed, and the applied level, because when you want to receive a certain amount of money from the government at the end of the year. I'm not too sure on the details, but that is one thing I know, that they do get paid in some form or fashion to the kids that they have at a certain level.
If they keep people in the local development just so the school can get paid, that is disgusting.
I don't know where that money's going, because our school.
All I'm gonna say.
But whatever. Okay, let's not talk about it. Let's not do that to ourselves.
Move on.
And then to get on
Before I
to the
put
more
my
justice system, like the legal system, that type of level, that type of systemic situation, for lack of better terms. How do I attack this? Okay, with the whole justice system thing, I find it very interesting, because it kind of stems back to the whole school situation, like the whole teacher situation. Because like a lot of the people in that position, or in those positions to make the decisions at the justice level, do not share similar experiences, right? Because they're not of the same group, as the dictionary put it. Because they're not of that same group, they may not understand certain caveats that might lead to certain things.
I see.
And then that leads me to kind of the whole black on black crime thing a tiny bit. But before I get to that,
Stress.
Okay. Yeah.
Isn't it
stress.
so hard to address these issues? I wish we could talk about something else, but the fact that we have to talk about this is very sad.
No, we
But
kind of,
continue.
we have to, because we haven't posted in a minute, and it would be unfair for us just to skip over the entire past 3 months like they didn't happen.
It's been a lot has happened since this is our last
A lot has
upload.
happened since
A
we
lot
recorded
has
the last
happened.
podcast.
So much.
Yeah, I know. We can cry about it after the podcast.
Cry after that's a motto. Page me, cry, get mad at me, cry after the podcast. Do all of that after the podcast.
But the thing that I was trying to touch on, was kind of alluding to, going around in circles, was that black people tend to be judged. Don't do that. Black people tend to be judged harsher for smaller crimes. Judged harshly for smaller crimes, and then that leads to longer sentences, and that leads to a perpetuation of the whole cycle a father goes to jail for X amount of years, kid doesn't grow up with his father or a father figure, whatever. Again, I'm not talking about specific cases.
So many
We're just talking
disclaimers.
about averages. On average, there's a lot of fathers missing from a lot of black households, which I personally believe feeds into the cycle of problems. Because if, say, I'm the only man in a household just with my mom has to work multiple jobs to provide for X amount of situations. Okay, instead of asking my mom for lunch money, let me go steal lunch. Let me go steal lunch so I can get it for free, eat, chill. I don't have to ask my mom if she doesn't spend any extra money because I know that she's stressed, right?
Isn't that like Robin Hood? Like, not like that part of it exactly, but like doing
I
what
know
you
what
gotta do.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but no. No, there's multiple
I thought I was
differences.
smart. Sorry, guys. I thought I was gonna be
Well,
smart.
I
with this.
understand
Nah.
why you said that, but
Yeah.
no.
Continue.
Oh.
Stealing for like a good.
But yeah,
people.
yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, and it kind of expands into like, I want candy. Let's say I'm a kid. Let's say I'm 10. I want candy. I don't ask my mom for candy. Let me just go steal a bar. I grow up. I already have stealing in my mind. For me, my definition of stealing, I don't see stealing as something bad. I see stealing as a way to keep my mom happy so that she doesn't have to stress about my needs. That's one less thing for my mother to stress about. As a black kid without a father in a lower income environment, that's my thought process, right? Now take that and apply it to someone that's a bit older. Let's say I'm 16. I want these fresh pair of J's that just dropped because I just saw Last Dance. Shout out to Michael Jordan. I rated my guy. I just saw, don't do that. I just saw these fresh pair of J's, right? They just dropped. So let me just steal something else to sell to buy them. Or let me steal those J's themselves, which is a bit harder to do. I wouldn't recommend stealing. That's all I'm
You say
using as
flip
an
'em?
example.
Flip.
It's a bit harder
This guy's flipping,
like, I'm just saying, if it was me personally, I would rather steal something smaller, sell it, and then buy the J's properly to then clean the dirty money, because then I don't have the dirty money on me. The dirty money is then in Foot Locker system. I'm not telling nobody how to steal. It just doesn't make sense to steal the shoes because that's more risky.
Bro,
Whatever.
this is well thought out.
I'm just
This
saying. I've never done it. I'm just saying. It doesn't make sense
So
to steal the J's
detailed.
by themselves. Steal something smaller. That's not as dangerous. You might get a lighter sentence. But as I'm about to continue, you still might get a harsh sentence just because you're black or whatever. That person, right, now has the mentality, okay, when I want something, let me just take it. They're not going to miss it. They make thousands of these shoes. They make thousands of these whatever things I'm stealing that are smaller to sell off. It doesn't really, on the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make a dent in anybody's pockets. Actually owns Foot Locker, owns whatever. It's not really going to matter to them at all. It's just stock. So you then take that person, they're now 20, 22, because they've spent so much time thinking, they've spent so much time thinking that with this stealing mindset, it's not very likely that they would spend a lot of time with the people that disagree with that mindset, if you know what I mean. They'll spend a lot of time with people that agree with that mindset, stealing's okay, which is what a gang is. A gang is a bunch of people with similar mindsets, similar belief systems, similar values. Let's say they join a gang in my make-believe scenario. And let's say they do something with that gang, or they steal something, whatever, X, Y, and Z. That person would then go to jail, right? They would then go to jail for the crimes that they've done, which is just. If you commit a crime, you should go to jail, obviously. But the person that is judging them does not take into consideration, and it's impossible to take into consideration. I just want to make that. I'm not making a point to say that the judge needs to take into consideration everything that happened to the person's childhood. That's not my point. My point is, it's at a far higher likelihood that people of color, that minorities in this North America type of hemisphere that we live in, for them to fall into that trap of, I might need to commit crimes to stay ahead, to survive, right? Because at the end of the day, when it comes between committing a crime and surviving, I'm gonna pick survival, right? That is why black people make a higher percentage of the prison systems, even though we're not the higher majority of the population. Because it doesn't make any sense when you think about it. We're a minority of the population, but we make a majority of the prison system. Doesn't make sense, but whatever. The fact that we're put in that situation where we have to choose between following the law and survival already shows you a problem. That's just already a problem. You shouldn't have to make that decision as a human being, especially in a first world country.
Sometimes when you follow the law, you still have to survive.
Exactly. Exactly.
find
And
a
then
way
we
to
get into other situations where people are following the law and they're still treated as if they're not following the law. You know what I mean? There's people on a traffic stop for a broken taillight. Let's forget a broken taillight. There's people that I've watched stories of, that I've listened to, that I've read articles about, that have been stopped simply because the police officer felt like they're driving suspicious or whatever. There is no probable cause police officers to even stop them. They stop them. Oh yeah, it's a lot, especially because even those cases where people did not commit crimes, they're still treated as such, they're still convicted as such, they're still killed for no reason. Because think about it. Even because I hear people saying, even in those situations, to remain calm. If you follow the law, be submissive, obey what the position of authority, the police officer is saying at the point in time. That's no harm will befall you, right? But it's very difficult to remain calm when you're being stopped for no reason. You have places to be. They're asking to search your car without any probable cause or reason to do so, right? Mm-hmm. And then imagine you have family, you have a child in the back seat, you have your wife next to you. Even if you're by yourself, you expect someone to stay calm in that situation. That's just a naturally very tense situation to be in. You can't expect someone to stay calm in that situation. So to argue, just stay calm and listen to the instructions, doesn't make any sense. Because if you yourself was in that situation, they wouldn't stay calm. Like, if the person that's saying to stay calm was in that situation, they just wouldn't stay calm. And I feel like it's just unfair to expect that of somebody else when you yourself wouldn't be able to stay calm in that situation. Maybe if somebody can show me a situation where they themselves are able to stay calm, listen to everything, and then they're saying stay calm in this situation, maybe then I'll be more likely to listen to them, right? Because even older heads that have lived through a lot more physical discrimination that we've lived through, because ours is a different type of discrimination, racism. It's the same and stuff like that. It's the same in a way, but it's different. We're not affected as physical. We're not being hosed down in the streets for being black. We're not being told
it's
to go to the back of the bus.
It's the same, but in a different form.
Yeah, exactly. But it's to that level, I would be more willing to listen to them if they were to say, okay, calm down, just take the instruction. But a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are saying, yeah, it's tough, it sucks. You're gonna want to feel your emotions. You're gonna want to act up. It's a lot of the people that are not of the minority groups who are actually saying they stay calm, right? And there's a lot of people from different cultures. So watching this on social media, saying, why don't you just stay calm? Because in other cultures, their police act differently. Other cultures, there are different systems set up in place, different social structures set up in place where they respect the police at a different level, right? In our, Western, North America, Canada, America kind of culture, we don't respect you unless there's a reason for us to respect you. You don't just get respect because you wear a badge. You need to earn respect. You need to deserve respect. You get acknowledgement that you're a police officer. You get that type of treatment, but you don't just gain respect. You're not given respect. In other cultures, you're just given respect at a certain level and just expected to respect people with certain positions, right? Mm-hmm. So that's just something else.
Just to add on 2 cents, I would see in the comment section, again, like you said, just stay calm. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, yes, that is one of the most logical things to do in that kind of situation, but there's a very big lack of understanding going on. Yeah, I shouldn't have to steal if I'm in poverty and I have a parent working 2 jobs and I'm a person of color, but again, I'm a person of color. So like if I'm in this low income family and stuff like that, and I realize that the system has organized the people of color to kind of bring them down for the most part of it, it's really hard for someone who is in that community to not do things like that to get by, to feed their family, because they know that even if they do live to see 22, 23, 24, whatever, it's hard to get a job because of how the system is organized, which leads them to stealing food as a kid and stuff like that because of how their family is. So like just like you said, there's a lot of lack of understanding going on that people need to be aware of. So even though, yeah, my family was also poor growing up, yeah, I got pulled over by the police too. Yeah, I was told this before. Yeah, but you're not a person of color, so it's hard. Yeah, even though we're in the exact same two literal scenarios, literal levels of income and whatnot, and whatever things you want to talk about, but there's a big outcome difference regarding if you're a person of color and if you're not a person of color.
Yeah. And the outcome is really where it lies. A lot of people don't see
And
that.
even if the outcome is the same this time, what about tomorrow and the next day and the next day? The fact that the person of color has to think about what happens the next day and the next day and the next day, that's bad.
That could be your head. You get pulled over by the police. That could just be that could be the end of your life. It could just
literally literally be the last 5 minutes of your time on planet Earth.
And it's a trash 5 minutes too, because man's just paging you for no reason. It's just
literally like an escalation of just like the climax of your death, and no one wants that. It's just too stressful and everything. So we're basically trying to say, like, there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of lack of understanding going on, and I'm not saying that we condone every single bad thing that a person of color does. Of course not.
But I ain't gonna stop them, because
it's not gonna stop them, because again,
you have to survive. You have to feed your family. You have to live. That's your.
Like,
I can't stop you. If you want to, that's the same. That's my same mentality. Sorry to interrupt this. My same mentality with riots. I'm not gonna defend riots, just like I don't defend being in a gang. But I'm friends with people who are in a gang. I'm probably friends with people who are willing to riot. I'm not gonna stop them, because that is their decision. They're the reasoning for doing that, and me knowing their background and their history, I cannot holistically stop them and compare them to myself. Because they didn't live the life that I lived. They weren't given the opportunities that I was given. They weren't blessed enough to have everything that I have. Some people just have to do what they have to do, and that's just them. They're still gonna get the consequences, mind you, but they have to do what they have to do.
Yeah, like you can say, I don't want to use person of color as an excuse. It's not an excuse. I understand that, but again, it's not just. Like, there's a deeper meaning to it. It's not just the skin that is an excuse. It's the possibility of having this skin color that could lead to many problems in the future. Yeah, I'm not a person of color, and my family was poor, but I still went to school. I still got good grades. Okay, but that person who's a person of color, who's poor and going to school, there's a lot of deeper meaning, deeper problems within them that they feel like what they're going into, which is the system, school, work, whatever, is not supporting them enough. So they have to do other ways, other means, other actions to support their family, because they're born into something that the whole world is against them in a way, and then they're going into a system that's not going to support them. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going into the system that's trying to support my family financially, but the system is not supporting me emotionally, then I guess I have to do other things to support my family, because if that system's not going to support my family financially, and that system's not going to support me, if that system's not going to support me emotionally, which is not even going to give me a job financially, then I have to go somewhere else to get something, provide financial income for my family, because that's what matters. So there's a lot of lack of understanding and a lot of problems. No excuses that you're a person of color, or no excuses of if you're not a person of color. But there's a lot of lack of understanding. There's a lot of understanding that needs to happen between both parties, so people can understand why people are doing this, not just because they're malicious or evil, but because that's the only option they have.
Yeah, survival. And then after that, when you touched on just because you survived today doesn't mean you survive tomorrow. It could just be the next police stop. I forgot what the name. It could be
5 minutes later.
I forgot what the name of the police officer was, but Dave Chappelle talks about this. He talks about how he was stopped by a police officer one day that then went on to kill an unarmed black person a couple of weeks later, and he was talking about that could have been him. And the police officer knew who Dave Chappelle was, because it's Dave Chappelle. Everyone knows who Dave Chappelle is. You're born with that knowledge, and if you're not, I'm sorry for you. But yeah, just because of the position he's in, like socially, just because he's a famous comedian, he's given extra layer of protection. even though he's still black, right? At the end of the day, it still could be his head. He still could just get shot for that reason. And
there may not be a police officer that may do the job, but it might be a pedestrian on the street.
Yeah, could be anything. A lot of stuff been happening. Nothing would surprise me. Nothing. I heard after the whole lynching things, the serial lynchings that were going on, that I think stopped being reported about, but I'm pretty sure it's still continuing. Just like protests stopped being reported about, but I'm pretty sure it's still continuing. But
yeah, for sure it's still continuing.
Whatever. But
see how they slowly slowly bring it down.
I know. You
see how they bring it down. They know what they're doing. Now they're talking about other. I don't want to say names, but they're talking about other people in certain politics. They're talking about other people in certain things. They're talking about other problems and other things that are I'm not saying not as important, but that they're just completely just washing it away as if it's a trend. So like you see how they just slowly stop talking about reporting
keyword
it?
Trend. Hold that thought. We're not there yet. But yeah, and
I said friend?
Hey, chill. We're not there yet. Pause. But next up, I just wanted to touch on black on black crime, and then this doesn't need to be a long conversation, because what people fail to realize is that black on black crime doesn't happen because of race. Violence against black people, when it happens, it's not always because of race. Obviously, nothing is always anything. But it's a higher likelihood that it's because of race. Far higher than black on black crime being because of race, right? So the only reason black on black crime is even happening is because there's a high population of minorities in the same area with the same income, with the same problems. So again, it's survival. If Brian has food and I need his food, it's Brian's head. I have to take the food. I need to survive. It is what it is. Right?
That's
just
crazy.
Socially, again, as I said earlier, socially we've been put under this umbrella as black people all being one community. But if it's like between Brian's family and my family, Brian's family's gonna have to suffer. I'm so sorry because my family's not suffering.
Animal.
My family's not suffering. But you say animal, but at the end of the day, that's what human beings are, right?
Facts.
And crime happens between people of proximity. If I'm in a community full of black people, that's black on black crime because there's only black people here. I'm not gonna drive to Vaughn to go shoot a white person. What? Why would I go somewhere else outside of my community to commit a crime when I could just get what I need within my community? Yes, it doesn't make sense to not harm your community because you should care about your community, but some people don't care about the community because the community's not doing anything for them, right? So black on black crime should not be an argument in these situations because it's not a function of race. It's a function of poverty and different class levels and all that, and just a function of proximity and opportunity. That's just a function of. It's not a function of race. To continue on to just social opinions on black people as a whole, right? We touched upon this a bit earlier, how athletics is one avenue where you can find solace, you can find hope, and you can find opportunity. You can find a lot of opportunity through sports. But just correct me, I'm just gonna tell you how I feel personally. I feel like a lot of black people are prematurely pushed to athletics when they could, how do I put this? When they're not gonna achieve the fulfillment of their potential through athletics. When someone's not gonna get drafted, to put it bluntly, do not push them to be a basketball player when they should be studying because they're not gonna get drafted. And you know they're not gonna get drafted. As I'm talking to the authority figure pushing that kid to do sports, you know nothing's gonna come from this. Maybe scholarships, maybe. If the kids that.
But is it really worth? Is it really worth the cost?
Is it worth the cost of not getting into the university that has the job opportunity that the kid might want? Is it worth the cost of not ending up in the right occupation simply because you have to take away time from studying to do sports? I just feel like it's very. It feeds into the systematic thing, but I put it in the social section, right? Because I feel like it's very quick to happen. Like, you see a person of color, you see a black person or a Hispanic person or whatever, push them into sports. Just push them into sports because athletics is not how they're gonna find success. The only way they're gonna find success is through God-given talent of athletics because they're black because of artificial selection during slavery, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how they're gonna find success. They can't find success because they're intelligent, right? They can't find success because they're good in one facet or they excel in one area. And you could excel in sports. If you excel in sports, you're gonna get drafted and you're like an all-time prospect, then yes, do sports. That's not what I'm saying. But me personally, I know I'm not gonna get drafted for any sport. I'm just not gonna get drafted. For multiple reasons, obviously. But I in my past have been pushed to pursue athletics, and me having the foresight to know if I pursue athletics, I'm taking away from academics, and I want to be an engineer, so I'm not taking away from academics, right? It just doesn't make sense. And again, I did sports, I did all of that, of course, but I always had perspective of what's important. Sports, I'm not going to be a football player. Yes, I play football, but I'm not going to be a football player. Football is not going to get 100% of my attention. But there's some teachers, some authority figures that push these kids in these areas to pursue sports when, yes, maybe they could get drafted, but you still have to block out an entire portion. Like, they're not well-rounded. You still have to block out an entire portion of being a whole person, of being a well-educated whole person, right? And then you run the risk of getting injured, and then that's your sports career. That's your head.
Dang.
That's your source of income. It's gone. Because when your body's your source of income, when your body fails, your source of income fails.
Facts.
So I just think it's a very dangerous and toxic situation just to be pushing and pushing and pushing. And just because someone's athletic or tall or whatever, don't just push them to sports.
Facts.
Like, just because someone may be good at sports, don't just push them to sports. Don't push them to pursue a lifetime of sports when it's not something they're gonna make income doing. And maybe they're not even happy doing sports. Maybe it's because it was somebody else's idea. They just got into doing it over time. I'm not knocking sports. I'm not saying you shouldn't push people to pursue sports if they have a God-given talent. I'm not saying you shouldn't encourage people who want to do sports. What I am saying is don't. Okay, you know what? Simple. If you're gonna push people to do sports with so much energy, push the same amount of people to pursue academics with the same amount of energy. Keep the same energy, right? If you see someone's gifted academically, push them with the same amount of energy. You're gonna push the person to pursue athletics, right? And if you're gonna push someone to pursue athletics, one more thing. If you're gonna push someone to pursue athletics, make sure you still push them to keep good grades at the same time. Right?
Okay,
Don't allow them.
Yeah.
Don't allow them. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like Coach Carter type stuff, like the Coach Carter type movie. Like, you could push someone to do sports, and that's all cool and all. And heck, you may be looking at the next Usain Bolt. You might be looking at the next big time basketball player. I'm not gonna say basketball names because I know how people are with basketball. I know Usain Bolt's the fastest, and no one can argue that. So boom, that's the easiest,
Facts.
safest answer I could say because every other sport's so all over the place. Anyway, you could push someone to not push. You could suggest or encourage someone to pursue that kind of athletic passion or whatever it may be. But the fact of the matter is this, like Tevin said, like, your body will fail on you, whether it's age, whether it's talent, whether it's just injury after injury, or whether it's just lack of skill. There is a lot. It is so hard, so hard to do something regarding that does not have to do. Heck, I was gonna say, it's hard to be an entrepreneur or anything like that, but it's even harder to get into any job within the school system because so many people are in and out. So many people are involved in and out. So many people are given the opportunities now. A lot more people have the opportunities to do so many things nowadays compared to even 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Things have changed.
100 years ago, what opportunity? We weren't people. But continue.
LOL. So, anyway, so basically, if you're gonna suggest someone to do something like that, you have to think about the chances of them excelling in that. And on top of that, if you're just gonna suggest sports, mind you, like you said, if they get injured, it's game over. Especially if it's a parent suggesting someone to do that, because if your child gets hurt either physically or emotionally, it's done. It's game over. So you have to teach them other ways to make money with it, whether it's the school system or maybe it's a different talent, whether like singing or whatever. But you also have to
round table. Kinggsz, you didn't know I was the best ever. My favorite number 4 because I'm forever. Round table gang, do you wanna be a member? We celebrate every time we come together. I would rather effort than for you to lie to me. Honestly, over someone that is trying to be someone they're not